Morning Cafe with me, Leah Ngari. Today seems like a very beautiful day for many of us, including myself. And I do hope that you will keep it locked all the way till the end. We have a lot lined up for you, from current affairs to an interview with a very inspirational girl. Basically a musician who's doing music in a different way. But you will have to stay tuned until the end to see what she's all about. However, let's just take a look at what's happening on the roads. When we look at Globe Roundabout there, the roads seem to be fairly clear. Traffic is definitely flowing there. When you move on to just a few other places here, just around the Central Park, almost near Mamlaka Taylor's, we're finding that the road is clear all the way to Serena, Nairobi Serena. At Intercontinental, near Nyayo House, the roundabout just around that particular area, we're seeing that the road is fairly clear as well. Seems like there's no much traffic today. Looking at City Hall Way, traffic seems to be very clear. Harambee Avenue, the same thing. Seems like the roads are more clear than usual. But let's just take a look at other places here. This should be Uhuru Highway. All the way Bunyala Road, Uhuru Highway, the road is fairly clear. We can see there's very little traffic, if not any traffic at all. Upper Hill Road, of course, the same situation. The roads are clear. And I think basically, when you look at all the roads, Nyayo Stadium, the road seems very clear. Just take a look at one more place. Seems like it's going to be an easy drive for most of you on the road today. Ngong Road, which is usually very heavy with traffic today, seems to be fairly clear. Just a bit of traffic ahead just towards town, but the road seems fairly clear. And I believe most of the roads today are going to be the same. Well, let's just see what happens along the way. As the day grows, of course, we expect traffic to start building up. But as it is right now, 7:08, and traffic seems to be fairly clear. Well, let's just take a look at the dailies right now. And I have with me on Skype, I have Gerald Bitok, who is a political commentator. Gerald, are you there? Can you hear me, Gerald? I think if my director can just check on the sound, I can't seem to hear Gerald very clearly. Okay. Well, basically, we are in a situation where we can't seem to be getting Gerald, but a look at the dailies as we try and get Gerald today. The People Daily on the front page, it's all over. President Kenyatta yesterday kicked his deputy William Ruto's loyalists from Senate leadership, family taking charge with a new team led by KANU Samuel Pugisio, and sending his Jubilee partner back to the drawing board with what seems to be the DP as the head of state appears destined to, well, we do not know what's going to be happening as we continue. The political scene seems to be changing on a daily basis. But this story on page 4, and just to look a little bit more into that story, we're seeing there the story on People Daily, just basically talking about during a Jubilee coalition parliamentary group meeting at State House, attended by 20 senators, that's yesterday, drawn from the ruling party and KANU, Uhuru proposed radical changes to strengthen the coalition Senate leadership. Well, of course, people believe, and it is believed though, that these changes are meant to strengthen his presence in the country towards the 2022 general elections. Of course, this is a story that we as TV47 we are following up on, and we'll be sure to bring you more details as our team, especially the political desk, looks into that story. And on page 2, a distinctly defined entry for new CDF. Well, the new Chief of Defense Forces, General Robert Kibochi, who assumed office yesterday, has a full entry spilling over with a magnitude of voluminous assignments, in this case, to be completed and others to be started. Kibochi was sworn in at State House, Nairobi yesterday afternoon in an event witnessed by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Well, he takes over from Samson Mothethe, and this story, you will find it in page 2 of the People Daily. I want us to look further into the People Daily. Of course, still in the world of politics, it seems like politics is back to normal in the country. And we're seeing here Murkomen Kihika remain defiant. This story basically touching on the ousting of Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen and the Majority Whip Susan Kihika. who maintained yesterday they were unbowed and claiming they were taking a bullet aimed at Deputy President William Ruto. Seems like most of the DP's allies are a little bit in trouble at this moment. This story talks about the fact that, Kihika and Murkomen say that as far as they are concerned, no Jubilee party meeting was held yesterday at State House, adding that they will continue discharging their duties despite the fact that their positions in this case have appeared to, they appear to be taken by someone else. We'll definitely keep abreast of that story. That's one of the stories, of course, we have even this morning on TV47, The Morning Cafe. And if we can just move on. Another story here on page 8 in the People Daily. The state rising cases at border points now cause for worry. This is basically about the coronavirus cases. We are seeing that the government in this case yesterday expressed concern that international areas are becoming the new weak links in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, as the number of new infections in the country rose to 700. Of course, issues on border, basically people moving from one place to another across the borders has become an issue. During the Ministry of Health daily COVID briefing yesterday, its Chief Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman cited long and porous borders which are difficult to monitor as some of the countries most affected, with some of the positive cases involving people who have sneaked to neighboring countries and back. And by the way, we do know that some of the people who have tested positive, we know one Kenyan who actually has gone into hiding, but in Uganda. Kenyans, wherever you are, it is important that if you test positive, do not hide. It is important to turn yourself over so that you do not end up infecting other people. This is not a time to defy the orders of the government. Of course, further into another daily here, let's just take a look at the Standard. Still matters politics on the front page. Uhuru Ruto's stormy divorce. Well, it started as a talk of Cold War between the two Jubilee supremos has developed into a bare-knuckle fight that claimed its first Senate casualties yesterday. In this case, Murkomen and Kiika. The gloves are off and Parliament is next port of call. This story, we have definitely looked at it. You can still get it in the Standard. That's on the front page and, of course, on page 2. But my producer tells me that we have Gerald now. Gerald Bitok, are you there? Gerald Bitok, are you there? Hello.
Good morning.
Gerald Bitok, are you there? Hello. I can't seem to hear Gerald.
Yes, morning.
Morning, Gerald. Sorry about the challenges you're facing today in connecting.
I cannot really hear you clearly. I don't know what's happening with your sound.
I'm so sorry about that. Well, Gerald, this is Gerald Bitok, political commentator. Thank you, Gerald, for joining. I just decided to start ahead of you as always. I was waiting for you to join in. But we are looking at the Standard newspaper. I'll just take it back a bit. And on the front page, it talks about Uhuru Ruto's stormy divorce. Well, basically what started as a talk of Cold War between the two Jubilee supremos has developed into a bare-knuckle fight with casualties, so far. What do you think about this story, Gerald, and the fact that the two casualties still claim to hold office despite the developments as far?
I think, first of all, good morning, Leah. I hope everyone who is watching is doing well this morning. What's happening in Jubilee is quite unfortunate because the president has decided to completely abdicate the law, because I believe that the party constitution lays supreme above the presidency. And I want to say this, and I'll take it very personal because I'm a member of Jubilee Party. And I think the president, in all ways, has decided to abuse the constitution of the party. And he has decided to set a trend of lawlessness. Because when you choose to ignore a law in one place, then it means you've accepted lawlessness in every other corner. So what the president has done is quite unfortunate. And in all honesty, it's an abuse to the members, because Jubilee is not a private party. It's not his party as a person. It's a public funded party that we fund as members. So for the president to sit in a corner and call a few senators, actually senators from Kano, if you can remember, this thing came after after Sundays, or was it Saturdays, merger with Kanu Party. And the members who are called there were called on via SMS. There's a very clear mode of communication in terms of convening a PG for the party. And the president completely decided to ignore that, So, in all honesty, and I don't want to sound to be biased, but as a member, I want to say that the president has failed in every way. And I remember during the campaign, the president used to castigate ODM party. You remember the politics of the men in black in Kasarani, and you are saying that ODM party is not democratic. The president is exactly doing what ODM has been doing, and is setting a space as a place where people can make or can choose to break the laws, or can choose to make decisions without consulting the necessary organs. If you look at the structure of Jubilee Party, it's very clear. The president comes second, actually, in that structure. The most supreme structure of Jubilee Party is the National Delegates Convention, who are supposed to make a decision. And I can tell you, Leah, even the coalition with Kano is illegal in its own way. Because the people who are supposed to initiate a coalition, if it is a post-election coalition, if it's necessary, is the NEC, is a NEC Council. The NEC Council has never sat for the last almost 7 years. The president is supposed to convene a PG at least every year. He has never done that for that long, for all that time. So the president is being a hypocritical in every sense, and he's being a tyrant within the party. And I'll choose to say that without any fear or favor. The president is being a tyrant, and he needs to look at these decisions. If we choose to go this way, then it means we can also choose to break the laws of the land. Yeah.
Well, Gerald,
so in all honesty, yeah.
I want us to go back to the People Daily as we try and fix a slight problem there with one of the other dailies. I want us to go back to the People Daily. The story here talking about Moi, the man to watch as Senate changes rock Jubilee. And basically this story talking about during the 2017 general election, Baringo Senator Gideon Moi's slogan was Ong Ewekun Teteka, meaning let us bring the presidency back home. Do you think he stands to bring any presidency back home?
One thing I can tell you, and I'll tell you this as a resident of Rift Valley, we are very clear in how we operate in terms of politics in Rift Valley. And we can never have two leaders in Rift Valley. It never happens. It has never happened. It will not happen. We stood behind Moi for 24 good years, actually 30. Since he was the vice president and until he became president, for all those years we stood with him. If you can remember in 2002, the only community that voted in its entirety for Uhuru Kenyatta was the Kalenjin community, not even the Kikuyu community. They were split into two because we are having Kibaki running. And we've stood on how we operate our politics, and it's very clear. To imagine that Gideon would sit somewhere and think that he has an entitlement of leadership because his father was a leader, or when he says bring back the leadership home, I don't understand. Maybe his home or which home? Because if we talk about community leadership, we still have a structure that's existing. The deputy president has been the deputy president for the last 8 years, so it means the leadership has been home. So when he says he's going to bring back home the leadership, I don't know what it means. Is it home to the Mois, or is it home where? So his slogan is out. It's out of question for me, and I'll tell him that. Tell him to come and run in 2022 as a senator. He'll not get any vote. It's very clear.
All right. Let's just take a look at a story here, Gerald, in page 7 of the People Daily. Question here. Is Murathe Uhuru's mouthpiece on 2022 succession? This story talking about Jubilee Party Vice Chair David Murathe emerging as leader of a wing of power brokers tasked with leading President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession process. Easy, really?
If you can remember, during the times of Noah in the Bible, when there was a flood, there is a bird that Noah used to send from the ark to try to go and look whether the floods have subsided, to go and give out signals and all that. And Murathe is that bird for Uhuru Kenyatta. And I've said this, and I'll say this time and again, that Uhuru cannot claim to not be aware about what Murathe is saying. If you can remember, the first person who came out screaming and training the guns against the DP post 2017 elections was Murathe. He's the one who started a campaign of the DP is corrupt and all that. And everyone else picked it up. And every development that has come, if you can remember, Murathe said clearly that the president was planning to change the leadership of the party in parliament. He has gone ahead and did it, So Murathe is that bad that Uhuru sends to test the waters outside there and to deliver a message. So if today you hear Murathe screaming about it, even if Murathe says Uhuru is going to come back as a PM, trust him. And I'll tell you this, trust him. Murathe says what is in Uhuru's mind. They sit down, I don't know, over coffee, whatever it is, and they tell him now, this is what we've decided. Go and make the noise on the streets. This is what we stand for. And I can tell you, from the precedents that has been set right now, it's very clear that Murathe was right all along, that the president does not have any intentions of leaving power. So it leaves us asking ourselves, Leah, where is the position of the Constitution? If people like Murathe can actually speak for government, Murathe is a nominated MP. He does not hold any leadership structures in government, leave alone parliament. So Murathe, as you said, is not Mr. Uhuru's fixed man. He does not fix anything. But he's the homie. He's the one who delivers the message.
Gerald.
Yeah.
Well, Paige.
So that is a bad. He is Uhuru's little bad.
Okay, Gerald, your opinion. Well, Page 8 talks about the state rising cases at border points now cause for worry. I tried to mention this story yet in the Standard before we kind of lost it. We're still trying to load it up. But the government yesterday expressed concern that international areas are becoming a new weak link. Talk about Tanzania. We were talking about Tanzania yesterday and what Magufuli is doing in terms of his approach to COVID-19. What would be your sentiments about border links?
There is something I said, I still stand with it. And I remember when I said it, there were stories of what will happen to business and all that. I can tell you, there is no way you can put an economy before the health of a nation. I've said this time and again. And the government to claim that the border point is becoming a weak link right now is quite unfortunate, because it means we have a failed system, strategic system in terms of fighting disasters. I said this in your show a week ago, and I told you this. Tanzania is going to be the biggest problem they're going to deal with as a country, and actually the borderlines. Yesterday, you heard about drivers who are testing positive because they came from Tanzania. So, Leah, the government is already late in how it does things. This is the next cream we are going to add. We are going to hear about locusts. When the locusts are here with us, they'll start talking about, we now have the locusts. The strategic disaster management in this country is failed. I say this, the government should have moved to lock the borders. Immediately, Magufuli played ping-pong games with coronavirus. And I'll tell you this, if the government continues to ignore the need to put its sovereignty before anything else, then we are going to have a problem. The border points are going to be a serious weak link in the fight against coronavirus. We might be able to fight it locally as a country because we have our own strategies that we can control. But you cannot control and influence the strategies of the neighboring countries like Tanzania. Magufuli has decided to say they are going to pray for corona. Down here, we are saying we're going to treat corona. We cannot apply the same strategies in one place, considering this is an infectious disease. So the closing of the border should actually be almost military as a state emergency, as an issue of state security. So it's already late, actually, I'll tell you that. Because if you're talking about 7 drivers testing positive and crossing in from the border on Tanzania, then it means we have more cases that have already come in. And you can only imagine what is the contact of these seven drivers. So it's going to be a reverse gains in terms of fighting corona if we continue to leave our borders very, very porous. And we cannot treat it as one of those things. We must treat it as an issue of state security.
All right, Gerald, I just want us to go to the Standard newspaper. I think it should be on page 6. We're having quite a bit of a challenge here with loading the paper. But however, this story talking about creative Kenyans developing ideas to combat the pandemic. This story, Gerald, talking about Kenyans who have submitted a prototype ventilators to the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Seems like now we are becoming more innovative. I think it's good news for Kenya to see what Kenyans can actually do in helping to fight the COVID-19.
I think the problem is not whether we are innovative or not. I think we've always been innovative. The problem is the government willingness to support innovation in this country. We are fed on complete import innovations in this country. And it's quite unfortunate because it shows that we have the capacity. If there's one thing that coronavirus has done is that it has exposed us to a potential which we've ignored for the longest time. But the question is, Leah, after corona, will these innovations continue to be appreciated and developed? You know, the government the other day was celebrating the submission, and there are several companies who have actually submitted these prototype machines in terms of these oxygen concentrators and all that. But we've not yet seen mass manufacturing being facilitated by the government. So as much as I appreciate the fact that the government is finally waking up to the fact that we can actually fix our solution, we can actually fix our problems locally, the question would be, is the government really willing to continue to support these innovations? So the fact is that Kenyans are innovative in every way. Within a very short time, Kenyans are able to come up with oxygen concentrators and breathalyzers and all that. The medical research institute Cambridge came up with a vaccine. It's actually also developing a drug that's going to be used on coronavirus. But you're not seeing these things being developed. If it was in another country, every day we are reading in newspapers and international tabloids about people who have discovered drugs in Italy, drugs in Australia, drugs in the UK, drugs in America. The small wins that we have as a country are not being elevated to that extent. Maybe because our stories are not worth sharing or something, or is it because the government does not take us very seriously? So while we appreciate that the government is putting these things on the forefront, but it's only for camera. They are doing this for the camera. For the last 1 month, we are now 2 months since coronavirus started. We've always had these innovations. We need to see them being used. We need to see government saying, okay, we manufactured 1,000 oxygen concentrators, which were brought in by Kenyan innovators, and they are placed in such and such isolation centers, and this is how they are performing. Otherwise, Leah, we'll have this discussion, corona will come and go, and our youth will continue to suffer in the peripheries of innovation and the peripheries of government functions. So I think the government needs to take it more seriously. Yeah.
Well, Gerald, thank you so much for making time this morning. I have to put a hold to the newspaper review at this moment. Gerald Bitok, political commentator, always a pleasure to have you join us on the Morning Cafe, and we hope you'll make time again.
Thank you, though you did not introduce me properly, so you did the same mistake last week.
I did not do what?
How you've introducing people. You did not introduce me properly. We had a deal last week.
Oh,
this is the way you're supposed to introduce me. How did you introduce my friend Ibarra?
Sawa sawa basi. Thank you so much, Gerald, all the same. Well, this has been the... Okay, bye-bye. This has been a look at the dailies. Thank you so much for watching. Let's just take a short break right now and come back with the day's news, local stories, international, and of course, regional stories making headlines across the globe. So don't go too far. The Morning Cafe will be back shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe. Let's take a look at stories making headlines. Well, 7 people died on Monday and 2 others are in critical condition following grisly road accident at Kisian area. The accident involved 4 vehicles, and Daniel Dembede tells us more.
This is the mangled wreck of the ill-fated public service vehicle belonging to Acacia Sacco and 2 other personal cars. 7 people have been confirmed dead and 2 others are in critical condition after this lorry rammed on the matatu and 2 other vehicles, and this happened at Kisian along the Kisumu-Busia highway. According to the eyewitnesses, say the lorry carrying sugarcane may have lost control before the accident happened.
Hiyo gari ya Nissan ilitoka town. Sasa amepata hiyo gari hapa akapiga akaruka hivyo.
Some furious residents are said to have beat up the lorry driver before he was saved by the police. The irate mob set the truck on fire. Kisumu West Police Boss Edward Kangara confirmed the incident, saying 7 passengers who were in the matatu passed on while 2 are receiving treatment in various hospitals within Kisumu.
We can confirm that those people who are in the vehicles who are injured were rushed to the hospital. 7 have already passed on, and 2 are still being treated in the various hospitals within Kisumu West.
Daniel Dembede, TV47, Kisumu County.
The jumble in Jubilee party has sent 2 Senate majority leaders replaced in a well-calculated move in favor of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Senate majority and the majority whip Susan Kihika, both DP William Ruto stalwarts, have been replaced following a Jubilee Senators parliamentary group meeting held at State House Nairobi on Monday. The 2 have objected the move, and Liz Mutuku will tell us more.
The daggers are out. It is now apparent that the little love, if any, that was left in Uhuru Ruto has been lost in today's State House Jubilee Party's lean Senate group meeting is anything to go by. Jubilee Party leader President Uhuru Kenyatta quoted KANU, and now his deputy William Ruto's appointment in the Senate has been replaced by a KANU stalwart. Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, the immediate former majority leader in the Senate, was replaced by West Pokot Senator Samuel Pogisio of KANU. This happens just days after KANU wrote to the Registrar of Political Parties communicating the post-election coalition between Jubilee and KANU, a coalition that Murkomen rubbishes as imaginary.
Article 32 of the Jubilee Party Constitution provides that for you to form a coalition, there must be 1, a NEC meeting to decide that a coalition should be formed with any party. For this matter, it's purported that there's a coalition with KANU. Number 2, you must appoint a coalition negotiation committee. I sit in the NEC with Senator Susan Kihika, and we've never met for the last 3 years. No meeting took place to pass a resolution to have a coalition agreement with the KANU party. And therefore, the purported argument that KANU would have participated within the precincts of the law, and particularly the Standing Order 19, in voting us out, or a KANU member being voted to be a leader in Jubilee, that is preposterous. That is laughable. That is the biggest joke you can have in this part of the town.
Also replaced after the Jubilee Parliamentary Group meeting on Monday is Senate Majority Whip Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika. Kihika was replaced with Murang'a Senator Irungu Kang'ata, who will be deputized by nominated Senator Faria Ali Haji. Both Murkomen and Susan Kihika say they were not invited to a parliamentary group meeting with an agenda to change the leadership of majority party in the Senate. The 2 also say 20 other senators were not invited to the State House meeting.
Kama wana Jubilee 22 kati ya wale ambao ni wana Jubilee 35, ya kwamba wale ambao hatukuhudhuria hiyo mkutano, ambao mkutano hatukuitwa na hatukuambiwa kuna agenda ya kutoa mtu yoyote. Sisi maseneta 22 tumeandikia speaker wa seneti tukaambia ya kwamba hatukuhudhuria mkutano wowote na hatutasupport chochote ambayo ya kuondoa watu.
But I can tell you, we were all together, the 22 who did not attend. We were all together through technology this morning. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank the 22 senators who did not give in to the intimidation that has been going on this morning. We, like you heard, right now as we speak, they have choppers roaming in Hola, in Samburu, in Marsabit, and in Kilifi, trying to bring those senators so they can sign. And that is the reason. And I challenge you, that is the reason you have not seen a list.
The two have also faulted the process of their removal from the leadership of the House and insist they are still bona fide officials of the Jubilee Party in the Senate.
We have written to the Speaker, the 22 of us have written to the Speaker to tell him in uncertain terms that we never participated in that meeting, and therefore there is no way they would be able to get the purported 20 senators, because we are not 42. We are only, at most, even if you included Kanu, we are only 38. So the most they would get after the 22 is 16.
I have been elected by the people of Nakuru County. I'm now the whip in the Senate. And as I said, I serve at the pleasure of the members of Jubilee. So if they are not happy with my service, they know what to do to get me out. But what we shall not do is let some meetings done without proper quorum and then purport to have removed us when they didn't even have the numbers. So do it properly and we shall get out.
This latest move in the clearest indication that the rift between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto is now beyond repair. Both Kihika and Murkomen are staunch supporters of DP Ruto and are strong opponents of the March 9th, 2018 handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Lawyer and Senator Ochilo Ayako says nothing can be done to undo Monday's changes in Jubilee. Oyako opines that the party leader has power to de-whip any member of the position if they are seen to be going against the party's agenda. Even as Murkomen and Kihika termed their ouster as null and void, now all eyes are on Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka to see whether they remain or not. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
And well, Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper Party is now considering a post-election pact with the ruling Jubilee Party. This revelation comes just days after Jubilee Party entered into a post-election coalition with KANU. And as Andrin Kilemi reports, a coalition between Wiper and Jubilee could open up an unprecedented political front at a time when Jubilee Party leaders Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto are growing further apart.
Whether it is a 2020 political game plan or a power play at Jubilee, recent moves to seek coalition pacts with opposition parties has thrown many into a spin. Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper Democratic Party has confirmed that talks of a coalition pact with Jubilee are now at an advanced stage. The revelation by Wiper Secretary General Judith Achieng comes just days after KANU entered into a post-election coalition with the ruling party.
So once you have mergers, it's inevitable because the Political Parties Act allows that.
Yeah.
We can do pre-election, post-election. So we are open to going that direction, you see. We have no problem.
And
But the NEC has not functioned. You know me, I talk with things which we have agreed and chosen the name. We met recently, the visual, and we all agreed as a NEC, we passed a resolution that we are open to coalition.
According to Judith Achieng, the decision to enter into a political arrangement with Jubilee is not a party's leader's decision, but that of the entire membership of the party.
Our party is a very democratic political party. We run through all the processes together, and we consult widely. So whatever decision that is made, and when we announce anything, believe you me, it's not only from all the party leadership, but it will be also something approved by our supporters.
In the process of political realignments and setting the ball rolling ahead of 2022, some people fear that their political careers could be at risk. Kipchumba Murkomen, just moments after being replaced by Samuel Pogisio of KANU as the Senate Majority Leader, has confirmed that he had no clue about the coalition pact between Jubilee and KANU.
We must appoint a coalition negotiation committee. I sit in the neck with Senator Susan Kihika, and we've never met for the last 3 years. No meeting took place to pass a resolution to have a coalition agreement with the KANU party. And therefore, the purported argument that KANU would have participated within the precincts of the law, and particularly the Standing Order 19, in voting us out, or a KANU member being voted to be a leader in Jubilee, that is preposterous.
The emerging political realignments could also shake up the BBI process that is largely seen as a political vehicle for President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has constantly denied allegations that he is engineering divisions in the ruling party. Andrine Kilemi for TV47.
Well, moving on to a story here, the two were arrested after the ethics. If my sincere apologies on that story, we seem to have actually lost that story. And just looking at the particular story that we were supposed to take on just now, on the Kenya Ports Authority General Manager Finance Patrick Wambugu Nyoike and a clerk Isaac Obungu were on Monday freed on 2 million shillings cash bail each after they denied fraud charges. The two were arrested after the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission completed investigations into irregular payments amounting to 214 million shillings.
It was a reprieve for the two KP officials who appeared before Mombasa Chief Magistrate Edna Nyaloti to answer to charges of economic crimes to defraud Kenya Ports Authority 214 million shillings. The Director of Public Prosecutions had recommended that the suspects face charges of abuse of office, conspiracy to commit an offence of corruption, failure to disclose a private interest to his principal, and dealing with suspect property. EFCC detectives are currently searching for Nyoike's brother Alfred and the company's other director Peter Ndichu Kinyanjui to answer to charges of mismanagement of funds and abuse of office. This series of events at the KPA are happening a few months after the former managing director Daniel Manduku resigned days after being arraigned in court after being sought several times by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over accusations of mismanagement of resources and abuse of office at the Ports Authority. Manduku's arraignment in court, however, left the DCI and DPP with an egg on face after the two collided over the charge sheet. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
And well, truck drivers are now the latest group of people to be put on the COVID-19 spotlight after 9 of them tested positive for coronavirus. The government now says it is considering closing its border with Tanzania if the cases escalate. Leah Gashomo tells us more.
For the last 24 hours, we have tested 841 samples, out of which 28 have tested positive for coronavirus. This number is distributed as follows. 10 of these cases are from Mombasa, 9 are from Kajiado, 7 from Nairobi, and 2 from Wajir. This brings to 700 the total number of those who have tested positive.
9 truck drivers from the neighboring Tanzania are among the 28 new positive cases of COVID-19 reported in the past 24 hours.
The 9 cases from Kajiado are all Kenyan truck drivers who are returning from Tanzania and tested at the Namanga border point. These 9 cases were positive among the other drivers that were tested.
The good news, though, is that 12 people have fully recovered and released from COVID-19 treatment and care centers.
On a positive note, we have discharged 12 people from hospital today. This now brings to 251 the total number of recoveries from COVID-19.
Dr. Rashid Aman says the government is exploring possibilities of closing its border with Tanzania in light of new COVID-19 cases on truck drivers. He, however, says no conclusion have been reached as yet.
So that measure will be taken. All these options are on the table being discussed on a daily basis. The triggers, once they are in place, the action will be taken. Let me allow the DG maybe to expound a little bit.
And all this, you will notice that we have not only increased the number of security teams we have put there, we have also increased the surveillance for testing, and we have created quarantine centers alongside these borders, so that people who are coming in, we are quarantining them immediately, as it were, and demanding that they go to quarantine for about 14 days.
Out of the 28 recorded cases reported, 10 are from Mombasa, 9 from Kajiado, other 7 Nairobi, and 2 Wajir respectively. Globally, over 4.2 million people have tested positive for coronavirus and over 285,000 have died. Over 1.5 million others have recovered. Leah Gashomo, TV47.
And Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has today morning assured Kenyans of their security, especially from police brutality. This comes days after a video circulated online showing police officers harassing a motorist. In an effort to decongest the prison, Matiang'i has said some prisoners will be relocated at Kasarani Stadium so as to attain the required social distancing rule in keeping with COVID-19 containment measures.
At least 14 police officers are under probe following cases of brutality meted on members of the public. Appearing before the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Coronavirus Pandemic, CS Matiang'i assured that officers found culpable will face the full force of the law.
14 police officers are undergoing a disciplinary action because of their conduct during this COVID period. And most of that is related to allegations of brutality against, members of the public. There are cases of 2 police officers that we are, investigating where allegations have been made in case of, mishandling members of the public when they have presented information to them.
Matiang'i also said the Ministry of Interior is collaborating with the judiciary in project to decongest prisons. In addition, the court session will be held in prison facility to limit the prisoners' interaction with outsiders wild, where they can easily contract COVID-19.
We have now created a center in Kasarani. We want to take all curfew violators and curfew breakers to Kasarani.
After the government announced cessation of movement in and out of Eastleigh and Old Town Mombasa, Matiang'i has said movement within the said estate will not be banned.
Because you cannot cease movement within. When you cease movement within Old Town or within Eastleigh, essentially you're having a lockdown. And we have, as government, we have decided we are not going the lockdown way, the way of Italy or the way of the UK, because our circumstances are peculiar and they are different.
CS Matiang'i has revealed that in order to curb gender-based violence, his ministry has seconded more police officers in specific stations to handle domestic-related cases. Zablon Masharia, TV47, Nairobi.
5 days after the government banned movement in and out of Nairobi's Eastleigh area, business owners are now staring at huge losses, even as they condemn the government's move to curb the spread of the deadly coronavirus. Our very own Andrin Kilemi visited the area and now reports.
This is what Nairobi's Eastleigh area looks like Monday. The once vibrant business center with giant malls now lays idle. It has turned into a ghost town with only police officers manning the entry and exit points. Residents now have no option but to adapt to their new normal.
Jioni kukojoa ni hapo ije kwa mlango. Ni kweli. Kwa shauri ukitoa kishwa asigari diua na konga. Kama mwingine alikonga mimi hapa mlango. Hapa siku ya kwanza. Mimi namwambia ngoja niende anja pale. Alikonga mimi kiboko.
Business owners and operators are the most affected. This since the cessation of movement was imposed on Wednesday last week to control the spread of coronavirus after the area was listed as a hotspot.
Tunashangaa wengine tuko masingo mothers wengi sana. Na huwa tunategemea Eastleigh kufua nguo tukilisha watoto. na watu wakikuja kwa kijiji huwa wanachukua tu pesa, wanasema ama msaada wanapatia wamama wa miaka 60 kwenda juu, na sisi wamama wenye tuko young tunashindwa, serikali imetuacha kwa njia gani?
It is a condition that has also affected the street children here. It is midday and they've put up a fire by the side of the road ready to make lunch. It is their first meal and would probably be their last for the day.
Shida yetu asubuhi tukiamkanga atukunywi chai.
Tunarogota manyama kwa mtaro, tunapika, ndio hii hadi unaweza kuona. Hii ndio chakula yenye tunakula. Hii ndio keroma.
Matatu operators, more so those plying the Eastleigh route, have come out to condemn the government, saying they do not have other means to fend for their families.
Umeamka saa 9 usiku, ungangane uone vile utatoka. Kwa si una pesa ya kutoka kwa gate 100 ama 50. Na ukiingia saa zingine kuna mvua, umepigwa. Saa zingine unakatazwa kuingia kwako na unawaonyesha kwako ni kule uko na kitambulizo ya kazi ya ile sako unafanya naye. Kama ni kwa maroli, niko na ID ya maroli za takataka. Pia unaonyesha hiyo ID, lazima uingie na pesa. Utaingia kama una
yetu. Kama wanataka wafugulie sisi, mtu wakwenda nyumbani aende nyumbani, akakae huku akakula madisi. Mafungue jia. Mtu akakula madisi. Ule anabaki Nairobi, abaki Nairobi.
Being one of the major business centers in the city, Eastleigh would have been as busy with traders and buyers all over the streets. Now, they can only wait for the next directive that the government will give upon lapse of the 15 days partial lockdown. Andrine Kilemi for TV47.
The Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage has launched the Work for Pay 100 million shilling stimulus package, which will benefit more than 100,000 musicians, actors and artists. The funds will be distributed with the help of government agencies and departments.
With the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, the CCI sector has been critically affected due to the sudden and massive loss of revenue opportunities, especially for the more vulnerable artists. The Sports Arts and Social Development Fund was created by His Excellency the President to provide funding to support the development and promotion of sports, of arts and social development, including universal healthcare. The persons who can access the fund for resources are classified under the following categories. 1, sports organizations. 2, professional sports persons. And 3, government implementing agency. In line with this, we expect to impact the lives of over 20,000 musicians, actors and artists who will benefit directly from the stimulus program. I direct the heads of departments and agencies involved in implementing the program to guarantee due diligence in the selection of projects that will be upheld.
And well, with that story, we do want to take a short break. Remember, we have a lot lined up for you coming up next after this short break, looking at stories making headlines. And of course, again, in the lifestyle segment, we have a very special guest with us. So stay tuned. Don't go too far. Keep it locked.
This May on TV47, we are giving you more reason to stay at home.
You are the chosen one. Because I am your mother. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Same-sex attraction isn't completely gone because
my root is from God. No, Pete. Lazima around you talipa.
You'll see some kind of like a smokish thing.
Hey man, don't forget about the monkeys.
Mama Saida, see, shut up.
Where are we? Right here on TV47, the home of untold stories.
Sarma Enterprises Limited, we are your trusted and reliable supplier of quality timber products, construction material suppliers, which are river sand, ballast, building stones. Visit our website on www.sarma.co.ke. Sarma Enterprises Limited, quality materials for quality structures.
Sarma.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe. Of course, right now we have with me in studio Agnes Ibarra, who is a policy and governance analyst, just here to tell us a little bit more about the stories we are about to highlight. Agnes, indeed, the political scene seems to be developing with a lot of new things. Looking at yesterday, the Jubilee jostle and jumble, we could call it, President Uhuru Kenyatta kicks out his deputies, loyalists from the Senate leadership. What do you make of this?
Hey, Leah, good morning. I think, first of all, I must say that it's a bit new to me, talking to someone that I'm not seeing. I'm a very personal person, so yes, it's good that we are taking these measures to ward off coronavirus infections. And maybe to start off by responding to your question, Leah, I must say that politics is a game of strategic interest. And to start it off, maybe I would take a quote from Hubert Humphrey, who said that anyone who thinks that the vice president can take a position independent of the president and his administration simply has no knowledge of politics or government. And he went on to say that you are, as a vice president, you are the president's choice in a political marriage, and he expects absolute loyalty. So, Leah, when the changes came in Jubilee, many people have been talking about this is disciplinary measures against the DP, and maybe guys are being checked for their defiance. But for me, I look at it as a layout for the 2022 matrix. And you see that when what we are dealing with right now with Corona, we are running out of time. And after Corona, when you cite utterings by Raila, the ODM leader, and also the Senate minority leader on the happenings of BBI, they have clearly stated that we are going to come back in motion right after Corona. So I think because we are running out of time, and there must be a referendum coming soon after Corona, after we've already dealt with COVID. And seriously, there won't be any time for petty politics. And also there's going to be limited time heading to the next general election. So I feel like those changes were needed now.
Well, you know, when you look at the tatters now existing in the union between Uhuru and Ruto, of course, one would question what's the future of Ruto in this case, because it looks like, to some, it would look like he's losing the battle, but is he really losing the battle?
You know, he still is the vice president, and if you look at the vice president's career, political career, you notice that he's a very resilient politician who has about 1 million lives. So I don't think it would be surprising to see him jump up again and regain his popularity, and maybe lay out other plans that are going to help him clinch the presidency. You never know, Leah. You can't write him off completely.
Okay. And when you look at Murkomen and Kihika still saying, despite what the president announced yesterday, of course, they feel like they will still hold their respective positions despite what the president spoke about yesterday. The question is, what is their future like? Even if they decide that they will stay put, will that really work for them?
I don't think they can hold off such a fight. And if you look at Article 7 of the Jubilee Party Constitution, everything was done on procedure. And what they deemed, what maybe is something that is in contention about the majority numbers, because I feel like that is what they're basing the arguments on. And Leah, you have to realize that majority voting is not based on the numbers, overall numbers in the House, but overall number of attendance. And you see that both I would say maybe the Tanga Win were invited themselves by the president. And according to the procedure, you are invited, and it's called a summon, and you are expected to maybe present yourself and give your arguments and maybe defend yourself. And by them not accepting the summon, it's a level of defiance that shows that they are not interested in the procedural process. So I believe what went ahead, replacing the House leadership, was according to procedure, and citing the Article 7 of the Jubilee Coalition about on the National Management Committee. You see that it was well in order, and the changes were made according to the law.
All right. Interesting. So what do you see for developments, just before we go to the next story? What do you foresee with this status in the Jubilee Party right now?
Leah, I'll maybe take you back to most of the decisions that the president has made about House leaderships. And you see, we also had the same tussle with the Nairobi County government. And most of the decisions that the president makes, and they are like presidential decrees, they're decisions that are made by fiat. The president actually just has a list, and he says that these are my people, and this is what we are going to work with. This is the team you're going to work with. And the same team that was voting, that was leading right now, the Murkomen team and Kehika, they were also appointed by fiat. And most of the positions that we have in government right now are under presidential decree. So I do not think that there is anything that can be done other than following what the president has said. He is actually the party leader.
And do you think he's using his authority prudently? For some, they feel it's some abuse of authority. Would you say that's the case?
I don't think so. As a party leader, it's your prerogative as the leader of that installation to dictate the path that you want to chart forward for your party. And if and you remember, I mentioned that this is a game of strategic interests. And if I feel like you, as a leader of my party in any of the houses, either Senate or National Assembly, does not meet my, maybe what can I say, my threshold of loyalty, I am at, it's my own prerogative to make the changes and make sure that the people I have in there will be able to carry my vision.
Right. Well, let's look at the issues pertaining curfew. A police officer in Nairobi yesterday charged with fatal curfew shooting of a Mathare resident during curfew hours. Of course, there's been a concern about violations of rights of citizens by security agencies enforcement curfew. What do you make of the current status, especially during curfew hours?
First of all, I'd like to really maybe commend CS Matiang'i for the dress-down orders to his police officers. You know, Leah, we had gained notoriety in the international media for most of the violence that we meted against the Kenyan people. And at some point, the casualties of police brutality were more than the casualties of Corona. But maybe I don't think the issue here would be police brutality per se, but it's a combination of many factors. Mm-hmm. You see, the young man who died in Mathare, as tragic as it was, was a combination of lack of information. You know, Leah, I've worked with the informal sectors, and I'll tell you for one that most of them don't have TV sets. And the announcements of government are coming on TV. They're mostly broadcasted on TV. And I remember the day on March 26th that the president announced the curfew orders and he summoned the Public Order Act. He gave a minimum, it was about 2 hours from his announcing to maybe the curfew implementation. And most of these people in these slums don't have TV, and they rely on word-to-word mouth. They rely on information from their peers. And you know, you do realize that once something is announced, and as busy as they usually are, they may not have gotten the news. And so when you spoke to many people on the ground in Mathare and the informal sectors, they found that they felt like it was unfair that the police officers rained terror on them immediately it was announced, and there was no level of sensitization or communication for them. So I feel like maybe going forward, there's a level of engagement that we need to involve our informal sector dwellers and let them know that this is what is happening and this is what is expected of them, because there's no way we can expect obedience without proper information. And I think information reliance going forward, when you want to deal with corona, and if you're going to slow down an infection or you're going to maybe beat this together, we need to develop maybe proper channels of information reliance just to make sure that the information gets to the people. But also, Leah, we also have to realize that when we come to, I would say maybe, it may be the improper word to use, but the undeserved communities, guys who are living in the informal sectors, guys who are living in the slums, the poor, or the guys who live maybe below $1 a day, there has been a very rough relationship between them and the police officers. And you see that years of lack of trust makes it very hard for police officers to maybe go into these settlements and maintain order. So I think we need to employ a multifaceted approach towards this issue. We have to maybe continue with the reforms that the National Police Service is going through, maybe make them more sensitive to the issues of the undeserved communities, and also maybe repair this trust and this relationship, and try to maybe cover more situations where the police are seen to do maybe more positive acts of service, not the ones that they are seen right now, and not the news that is dominating airwaves about them killing and shooting and innocent people. Leah.
You know, Agnes, it's been seen from the recent past, the relationship between citizens and the police officers or law enforcers, it's usually very frosty. And perhaps maybe that's why you'll find the media always reporting on such cases of brutality, because it's been a trend. So I think my question to you is, as someone who is a governance expert, what would you say should be the role of the citizens towards making sure that, you know, there's a good relationship between them and the law enforcers? Because now you've just told me about the law enforcers.
Leah, as I said, I think it's about time, you know, over and above the president apologizing for the brutality and the Minister of Interior talking about ways that he's going to use to maybe cool down the temperatures and maybe act on the defiant police officers. I think as citizens, because our policemen, our service men and women are, what can I say, restorers of public order, and they are the guardians of our law. So I feel like even in our part as citizens, like what you saw, Leah, on the other day, pictures of police women and men escorting mothers with children and pregnant mothers during the curfew and not beating them up. I feel like there must be a positive citizen campaign that can highlight the good side of the police, and I believe that we have a good side of the police, and maybe that is going to repair the relationship that we have with our police service.
I'll tell you this, you know, the few conversations I have with various people, Agnes, and maybe you might have had this, most people will say the law enforcers are always very angry. They are angry perhaps because they're not paid well. They're angry perhaps because their working conditions are not so favorable, or really they're not conducive. Do you think maybe if this was improved, then their attitude towards the people they're meant to be protecting will change?
Over and above, because I think addressing their working conditions right now is opening a Pandora's box that we are not able to deal with right now. But there has been continuous reforms in the police service. We've seen their housing, we have seen plans of them improving their living conditions. We've seen reforms on them improving their risk allowances. But in terms of mass psychology and also the psychology of the service, and you see across the world, there is something that works with the military and the disciplined forces. There's a level to which comfort cannot be given to them, ultimate comfort. And I think for you to be a service person, even your manner of training itself is through discomfort. And Leah, I know it's very unpopular to say this, but the ultimate conditions of a police officer have never been met across the world. And I think they work best with the optimum conditions that are there, although there is much that we can do to alleviate their situations. And maybe this is what is affecting their relationship with the citizenry. But I feel like, yes, what is done is enough. And when the continuous rollout of these reforms is fully implemented, we're going to see better attitudes in our police service. But I do not feel like maybe we should be putting our police officers on a CEO salary. I think that's impossible. It has never been done across the world.
All right. Well, Agnes, truck drivers say to be exporting the virus, which in this case, the coronavirus. We know of a truck driver from Kenya who tested positive in Uganda and has since gone into hiding. And of course, there's been other more cases reported of Kenyans who have tested positive in Uganda. I think he's not probably the first person who has gone into hiding. Are we not really being able to touch on the core issue here? Why are people going into hiding when they test positive? This is such a critical issue.
Leah, I think when the world records more than 300,000 deaths and Kenya itself having 33 deaths and over 700 infections, the first human instinct is fear, and I think everyone would fear the stigma associated with any kind of disease that comes to cause this amount of havoc. And as human instinct, you either have flight or freeze. And I think most of the people who have been running away from quarantine centers are exhibiting flight responses. And it's expected. Maybe right now what we need to do is maybe have stringent measures to maybe make sure that the people that we are observing under quarantine do not make it outside of our watch. And I feel like maybe we are in a digital world, and I feel like there are very many digital solutions out there that can make sure that if someone tries to breach, a perimeter, the authorities can be alerted and they can sweep in faster before letting him go into the general population.
And when we look at the borders, movement from one country to the other, of course, there's that concern about exporting of COVID-19. What do you think we should do as a country in terms of course, maintaining a good relationship with the other countries, but at the same time, protecting ourselves as much as also the other countries?
Leah, we first must establish that the World Health Organization has recorded that 91% of the world's population is living under lockdown in various situations. Most countries have closed their borders. Most countries have cancelled international flights to and in and out of their countries. Most countries have maybe even banned travel, rail or road. And I think just to follow suit, Kenya needs to do the same. And we are among the number of African countries that have actually decreed such lockdown orders. And maybe even if you're not on a full lockdown, Kenya is somewhat on a semi-lockdown. And I feel like the issue right now we are dealing with as Kenya could be Tanzania. And for a country that is recording over 500 infections in under 24 hours is a cause of worry. And I feel like right now we can repair relationships later, but we should maybe take the same course that Zambia and Malawi took and close our borders with Tanzania right now, because this is a life and death situation and there's no taking chances when it comes to corona. And you see the level of transmission right now, Leah, we have 14 drivers who've tested positive and all of them are coming through the Namanga border, and some are, and five of them are from Tanzania. So we should actually follow suit. You see, the European Union has also closed its borders. There's no shame in closing its borders, and it has reviewed this and closed it further for another 1 month. We have the American State Department giving a level 4 directive for its citizens telling them never to travel anywhere. So I feel there's no shame in closing borders and reopening them later. And I know it's a fine balance and it's very delicate to try to balance trying to mitigate corona infections and the economy. But I feel right now we have to fight for the lives of our people, and that will mean to close borders of any country that maybe shows that is a risk to our people.
Agnes, within your knowledge of governance issues, looking at what you're talking about, border lockdown, other countries have done it and they are still, faring on well. But what will be the impact on Kenya if at all we close down all our borders?
About 5 years ago, Leah, I was privileged to take part in a project that wanted to promote local tourism within our country. And you'd be surprised that our local tourism numbers, if encouraged, would really reap in a lot of revenue for our government. And the decision to open up hotels and maybe resorts in our places, in our counties, would really help us in this regard. And I feel like maybe our fear would be losing business and closing, like what we discussed last week, Leah, about Kenya being a gateway to most of the East African countries. I feel our fear of losing this position that we have in the region will put us maybe in more harm's way. And I feel like maybe right now we need to employ more internal mechanisms of dealing with our economy and not really rely on our neighbors and the region, but maybe just try to, build on our strengths, internal strengths right now, and make sure that what works internally, we need to have it in the most optimum situation. So I feel like, yes, there is that danger. And you see, most countries are struggling. Last week we talked about New Zealand, and they decided to reopen their economy because they felt like the economy might actually crumble. Mm-hmm. And we've also seen South Korea, they chose to open and they have closed it again. So there is no shame at all in struggling for a while. And the World Bank is actually giving loan rebates to countries that are struggling economically. And Kenya got about 700 billion last week. So I feel like, yes, there's more that can be done internally. And what we need now is protect the lives of our people. And that would mean closing borders and actually maybe even losing business regionally or across the border.
And we should be ready for that. Well, Agnes, looking at Nigeria, it seems like Nigerians cannot keep distance. We know that half of Nigeria's 200 million population live in dire poverty, and this is basically making it a very huge challenge for social distancing. Comment on this story, because I know it's making headlines right now globally.
My God, looking at the Nigerian numbers, you realize that Kenya is like a town in Nigeria. And when you look at the 3 states that have been closed, Abuja, Lagos, and Odun State, yes, they are the majority, they hold the majority of the citizenry. And you see Nigerians are very vibrant, and they are one of the biggest economies in Africa. And I feel like when they decided to go on and proceed with their biggest economic activities, we have oil in most of the states that right now have been decreed to be on lockdown. You see, it's a challenge to really manage a number of people as huge as the Nigerian population and expect not to have community transmissions. And I believe larger populations are a challenge, especially when you're dealing with a larger population and not a bigger landmass. So it's something that definitely has caught the international attention, because Nigeria is one of the key African countries and a regional, economic and power base. And I feel like the decision by President Buhari to actually go on and call the state of emergencies in these 3 states would help them cut down the numbers of the infections. And right now they're dealing with about hundreds of these infections, and this is the best decision for Nigeria right now, Leah.
So you think a lockdown is better, because they actually risk having a possible lockdown right now if then the social distancing measures are ignored by the citizens, and that's what we are seeing. People are thronging banks, and we are seeing social distancing being an issue there, and not just banks, even marketplaces. So you actually support a lockdown?
Most definitely, lockdowns have worked for very many countries, and it's working with our neighbor Uganda. You realize a full lockdown means that there are two ways to deal with. Leah, let me first say, but there are two ways to deal with this: either elimination or suppression. And lockdowns, full lockdowns, totally eliminate infections, because if you ask people not to move from one place to another and employ other methods of tracking down, and you see what Nigeria is doing right now. It has employed a rigorous method of looking for contact of anyone who's infected, and when you have a thorough contact tracing and a lockdown that limits movement, I believe you can beat it. You can eliminate the virus. And I'm a supporter of lockdowns in economies that can support themselves, or in economies that have strategies of cushioning their citizenry.
But
and
I think
Nigeria has mentioned that.
The concern here is the poor. They're said to be more in the population than any other persons. Eking livelihood at this moment in a lockdown would be next to impossible or very difficult for them. So what next? Because we saw Eastleigh residents now asking for relief food. I think perhaps maybe, do you think the governments should now consider, and not just the Kenyan government, even the Nigerian and other African governments, they should consider maybe providing relief food and supporting their households?
Oh, that's already been done in Kenya. You know, the government already launched a vulnerable and a cash transfer program to the people who are maybe struggling through this. And I know very many other programs that are about to be rolled out. And you see, the challenge of African countries and maintaining lockdowns is because maybe we haven't developed a stronger social safety nets for our people. And you see, like now, Donald Trump in the United States is giving the citizens $1,500. That's an equivalent of 150,000 Kenya shillings. I don't think you can manage such colossal amounts to our people. And because maybe we are a young democracy and a young country, we are only 56 years old. And I feel countries who have matured, like the United States, who are over 200 years old, they have built their social system and their safety nets over the years, and they can afford to lock down a country. And also the other issue, like, no, I was reading a story from Nigeria, a very tragic story about a man who feeds his family. He has a man in his 50s who does menial tasks, and he's a mason. And he was talking about him being out of work since January, and him having not having any savings to his name to maintain his family or to even feed it for the next 1 week. And I think over and above our social safety net, having none, if any, we don't have a savings culture among our people. And I think maybe going forward, the corona is a double-edged sword. It's going to maybe help us reevaluate our social safety nets going forward, our health system, and also our saving culture. And I think it is going to do us more good than harm, even if when it comes to policy issues and individual decisions, Leah.
All right. Agnes, I want to ask you a question. Are you a fan of boxing?
I must say no, because I grew up with 7 brothers and they really harassed us by taking over the TV. But yes, we used to watch wrestling and boxing by force. And I think I am a secondary fan because my brothers love physical fights. Yeah.
Well, Agnes, thank you so much. We'll have to end it there. You seem to be having a problem with your picture, but towards the end of the discussion, though, however, throughout the discussion, we've been good. Thank you. Oh, you're back. So now let's just talk about Mike Tyson's ring return. Are you excited about it? I used to watch Mike Tyson back then.
I mean, Leah, who isn't? Mike Tyson, we grew up idolizing the man. He made a name of himself in his 20s. And we used to call him the Iron Mike. And I think him announcing that he's going to be coming back on our screens and he's going to go back in the ring. He's 58 years old, but he's managed to be part of our popular culture through the years. And what is even getting even more excited about his return to boxing is the fact that he's doing it for charity. And I will be following it. And I think I might even actually throw in a contribution, and we don't know how much he's going to raise, but I feel like it's even better that he's doing it for a good cause and to help the vulnerable in the society. Leah.
Fantastic. It's good to know you like boxing. You don't look like you like boxing, Agnes.
My brothers.
All right. Thank you so much, Agnes Ibarra, for making time.
Thank you, Leah, for having me. You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Well, Agnes Ibarra there, a governance and policy analyst, talking to us about different issues that we have highlighted throughout this discussion. Right now, I want us to just look at this interesting video, get a bit of inspirational for the morning to kick you off for the day, and then we return with an insightful interview with a very special guest in studio. You don't want to miss this interview, so stay tuned. Morning Cafe will be back shortly.
In the country and the region. Our members of faculty are keen to deliver market-driven programs in science and humanities with a keen focus on linkages with relevant organizations. We admit both self-sponsored and government-sponsored students under the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Join us today and train with the best to become the best. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Since late last year, the coronavirus COVID-19 has emerged as a serious healthcare threat. This is an infection that has gone global and no one has been spared. The government, through the Ministry of Health, has put in measures to keep Kenyans safe against COVID-19, which is currently rampant around the world, with new confirmed infections and death cases daily. Such sanitization and screening of visitors at this border post and across every entry point in the country is very vital in preventing the spread of the disease in the country.
I'm very happy about the screenings that are going on in Tanzania and Kenya. I think it's very proactive that you're thinking about stopping it at the border so that it does not spread.
It is scary that a single cough here can lead to an outbreak of epic proportions. In order to prevent that, the government has instituted measures to keep Kenyans safe.
The facility has all the equipments you need, from handling a basic patient up to ICU setting.
However, you also have a role to play in preventing spread of infections.
Citizen responsibility is the key to the success of this initiative and these measures. Let's all do what we have to do individually. And this is how we are going to defeat this disease.
It's just our general hygiene, okay? And that now means at workplaces, we should ensure that our work surfaces are clean.
Let's ensure that nimefanya proper sanitation ya mikono. Every time na board matatu, lazima ni sanitize mikono.
We have faced many severe challenges as a nation, and we have always found a way to rise above them. COVID-19 is no different, and we will overcome the pandemic. Stop coronavirus. Follow all directives from the Ministry of Health. Wash your hands.
Welcome to the exciting world of M-Truck Solutions, your trusted provider for bulk SMSs. We also offer API integrations for all your communication and payment needs. We also provide you with tailor-made payment getaway solution to receive and disperse cash quickly, affordable and securely. Let us expand your reach and connectivity on USSD, SMS and voice today. Call us on 0723 030 030 or email hello@mtruck.limited.co.ke. For more details, visit our website www.mtrucklimited.co.ke.
Kila baada ya miaka mitano tunawachagua. Kwa kazi zao za ofisini tunawafahamu. Lakini je, unajua maisha yao zaidi ya ofisi?
Naomba Mungu kwamba ndio kabla hajaniokoa nikuwe bishop, anipatie mpaka ile kipawa ile ya kuona ile ya ukweli, si ile vitu ambayo kinang'anga wanafanya hapa ya ukora.
Milima na mabonde tutavuka, kaunti zote 47 na ikibidi nje ya nchi tutafika, ili mradi kuhakikisha kuwa umewafahamu.
Vile ningetaka kusema ni kwamba that vile tumelelewa tukiwa ndani ya biashara. Kwa hivyo biashara ilikuwa ndani yangu. Hii maneno ya kuandikwa ilikuwa tu formality kidogo upate laini.
Wale waliopo na wale waliokuwepo, wote kwa mpigo tutawapata. Nitabisha, wakifungua nitaingia, kisha nitakupeleka kwa utaratibu katika safari yao ya maisha.
Kumbusho ni yoe 1992.
Ndio nikukumbusha.
Ni mama alikuwa anatukasia sana, anasema lazima vijana muoe.
Hayo yote utayapokea katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, nami Elizabeth Mutuku, kila siku ya Jumatano saa 2 kamili.
Alphonsus Peterson. Tumefutwa wote.
Yawa, pia wewe.
Tumeachiliwa.
Si pia wewe unaweza anzisha biashara yako.
Na hii economy venye iko tough sana.
But not too tough for Mwananchi Credit.
Tutafanya aje?
Si niko na 5 good cars. We can get a quick logbook loan approved within 6 hours.
Nataka kuanzisha salon na spa. Hii haitatosa.
Si tuko na title deeds pia. We can still get more money using them. Get a quick approval within 6 hours using your logbook or title deed. Do not get stuck. Call Mwananchi Credit today. Si nilikuambia.
You are a big smart joke.
Mwananchi Credit. Investor in people.
The coronavirus is spreading rapidly across the world, and currently there is no cure or vaccine against it. It spreads through tiny droplets when infected people speak, cough, or sneeze. These droplets can land on surfaces to be picked up by hands and are impossible to see with the naked eye. But just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they are not there. And you may get infected if you touch your face, nose, mouth, or eyes. To help stop the spread of the virus, we all need to do the 5. 1. Follow these steps to wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 40 seconds. 2. Cover your mouth with your bent elbow whenever you cough or sneeze. 3. Avoid touching your face. 4. Avoid crowded places. Keep a safe distance from other people. 5. Stay home if you can, especially if you have any of the symptoms. For more information, visit www.who.int.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe and this is the lifestyle segment. We are here with Crystal Asige via Skype. Crystal, so good to see you. And finally, I get to speak to a lady who is inspiring very many people across the globe. Crystal, let's just begin. Tell us a little bit about what happened for you to now come to the point of becoming visually impaired.
Well, it was when I was around 15 or 16 years old in high school when I started to realize something is wrong with my eyes. It was difficult for me to read in class from the blackboard. It was difficult for me to read my scripts in drama class. I had to put the book or the script right here in front of my face. In sports as well, it was difficult for me to see, like where I was running, sometimes there were blind spots here and there in sports. So then I told my mom about it and she was like, okay, let's go to the doctor. Perhaps you just need glasses, because my dad and my mom also wear glasses. So we just thought maybe it's just hereditary that I just need to wear glasses. Mm-hmm. So I went to the optician and unfortunately he did not catch that I had a condition. So he gave me a pair of glasses, which, just worked for the time being, temporary kind of solution. And then it was only until I went to university, when I went for another checkup in university, because, everything was still going downhill. The eyesight was still deteriorating as the years went by. Mm-hmm. So I just went for a regular checkup. And then at that particular checkup, the doctor told me, no, there's something terribly wrong, because the pressure in your eyes is super high. And it's not supposed to be this way. It's not normal. Usually pressure should be between 10 and 15 in the eye. That's interocular pressure, but I was in the 40s. So he clearly alerted me to go straight to an eye hospital and not an optician anymore, because they're two different types of facilities.
Well, Crystal, your song's very inspirational. When I look at the lyrics, they look so heavy with emotion. Tell us about what inspires your music. Is it the experiences you've had after the condition that you were diagnosed with? Tell us a little bit more about that.
What inspired, I can't hear very well. I'm not sure what's happening, but I think you've asked me what's inspired the song.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically my life, not just the visual impairment and what I've had to deal with through that, depression, acceptance of myself after a period of feeling guilty and ashamed, but also just about adversity in general and how to overcome adversity. The song just talks about a conversation that I had with Jesus a long time ago, where I was like, you know what, God, I've walked all over the world looking for remedies, looking for solutions. That's why I start with the line, I've walked 1,000 miles. And I've cried 1,000 times. There's also another line in the lyrics. And those are all things that I told Jesus, and I said, what's happening? I'm still a young person. I'm just in university and my eyesight is almost, completely gone. What am I supposed to do with my life? And I had studied film and theater in university. So those are very visual arts, obviously. And I was like, well, how am I going to do them without my eyesight? So after that particular prayer, or was it an argument, whatever it was, I just had a revelation basically from there on out, whereby God just told me I should just be still and just trust him and know that he is God and he's going to be the one to light my way. And so I wrote the song because it's not just something that I, excuse the dog, the neighbor. It's not just something that I can relate to, because there are themes that everyone can understand in this song. Night signifies adversity, light signifies prosperity. The path or the journey that we take is the choices that we make, and then the actions as well that we take is signified by our feet and how we walk. So those are the kinds of themes that I encapsulated in that song. It was inspired by the verse.
Crystal, I think we can hear you, but the picture seems to be having a bit of a challenge. I don't know if you can allow us to just take a brief break and then we come back to you.
Okay.
I'm so sorry about that, Crystal, but we'll be back to you shortly. So let's just take a short break. Morning Cafe will take a short break right now just to try and fix up whatever is happening with the picture, and then we'll be back to Crystal just to hear a little bit more of her story. So don't go too far. We'll be back shortly.
Mount Kenya University takes pride in being an academic giant with some of the best infrastructure, imparting knowledge to the best brains in the country and the region. Our members of faculty are keen to deliver market-driven programs in science and humanities with a keen focus on linkages with relevant organizations. We admit both self-sponsored and government-sponsored students under the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. Join us today and train with the best to become the best. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Welcome to the exciting world of M-Truck Solutions, your trusted provider for bulk SMSs. We also offer API integrations for all your communication and payment needs. We also provide you with tailor-made payment getaway solution to receive and disperse cash quickly, affordable and securely. Let us expand your reach and connectivity on USSD, SMS and voice today. Call us on 0723 030 030 or email hello@mtruck.limited.co.ke. For more details, visit our website www.mtrucklimited.co.ke.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is the Morning Cafe. Before we took a break, we were with Crystal Asige, who is a songwriter and we seem to have lost quite a little bit of challenges here and there in connecting to her and just sustaining that conversation. But I'm sure we will have Crystal Asige again, whether tomorrow or another day. One thing I assure you is that we will have Crystal again, because you have to hear her story. Quite an inspirational story of strength and, of course, resilience. Again, this has been the Morning Cafe with me, Leah Ngari. Indeed, it is always a pleasure to have you join us. And I have to tell you that also tomorrow we have a lot lined up for you. And you need to also tune in tomorrow, same time, same place, at TV47 at 7 a.m. That's Morning Cafe, and we'll be sure to take you through the day's news and, of course, a little bit more of what's happening globally. So let's now come to the end of the show. Indeed, it's a pleasure. Thank you for watching. Until tomorrow, same time, same place, do have a lovely day.